Good afternoon, welcome and thank you for joining today's talk, jointly presented by IJN, Institute Jantung Negara and Allianz Malaysia. Our media partner for today is Malaysia Kini. My name is Cynthia Ng and I'll be the moderator for this session. And the topic for today is perhaps one of the most important conversations that we will be having in the coming months, one that will affect each and every one of us. Are you ready for COVID-19 vaccines? Now, we know that the second phase of the National COVID-19 Immunisation Plan will begin next Monday. The government targets to inoculate 9.4 million people, and under this second phase, we will be vaccinating people such as our parents, senior citizens. Under this phase as well, we will also be vaccinating people who are categorized under high-risk groups, such as people suffering from illnesses like heart disease and diabetes, as well as people with disabilities. Now, of course, the government, in their effort to want to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 infection, we know cases have been rising in the past couple of days. The government says they are maybe considering including economic frontliners under phase 2. So that's good. We have a solid plan in place, but we also know there are a lot of concerns and questions about vaccines. Are they safe? What types of vaccines are there? And will I be completely safe from COVID-19 after taking the vaccine? So these are some of the questions that we will be running through today. And joining me on the panel to answer those questions, I'd like to welcome Dr. Loh Hong Sheng, cardiologist at Institute Jantung Negara. Thank you, doctor, for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Joining me as well is Lauren Hall, Head of Distribution, Allianz Life Insurance Malaysia, Berhad.
Hi, Cynthia, and good afternoon to every audience online.
It's a pleasure to have both of you here today. Now, as I mentioned, there are still a lot of questions and concerns about vaccine. I'd like to go to Dr. Loh first, just to understand COVID itself, right? When somebody contracts COVID-19, what are the side effects?
Now, when someone gets COVID-19 infections, there are some unfortunate ones. They actually end up with multiple or severe complications. When we say severe complications, that means they develop some form of organ failure. For example, they get injury to the lungs, they get problems with the heart, such as heart failure or even heart attacks. They may even get strokes. Some of them even develop kidney failure as well. And there are even more unfortunate ones who actually end up with persistent kidney failure, or we call it chronic kidney failure, and they may actually require dialysis for their life. There are also some who actually recovered from the infection, but they continue to experience some form of symptoms, mild symptoms, that actually tend to linger for up to even about 6 months. And this is what we call a post-COVID syndrome, or sometimes we call it a long COVID. And there's another term, we call it the chronic COVID-19 as well. And what are these symptoms? These symptoms can vary. Some of them experience fatigue, tiredness all the time. That actually affects their quality of life. They even experience muscle pains, joint pains, other things like headaches, even cough. And some of them even have problems with their memories, even concentration. They feel like as though their brain is in a fog. And some actually experience depression and anxiety as well. And there are also some patients who complain about palpitation, chest discomfort, and also some actually experience like hair loss or even difficulty of sleeping as well.
I know there's a lot that we do not understand about the virus itself, and it does seem that the effects are much longer than we expect it to be.
Yes.
Okay. Now, before I continue with Lawrence, I just want to tell our audience tuning in today that we will be taking questions from you. So we'd like to hear from you. If you have any questions, just head on to IJN's Facebook page and drop us a line, and we'll try to answer those questions for you. Now, I'd like to get to Lawrence about just the industry itself now. I mean, you're from the insurance industry, and like any other industries in this world, it has been severely disrupted by COVID-19. Can you tell us about how has it been for you in the past year?
I think when the news first broke out to us in March, in the group MCO, I think things turned a bit chaotic. Yeah, but of course, people in the industry, the people who are selling, they are affected because we can't get used to the sudden change in the way we live our life and the way we work. But I think there is a blessing in disguise. Yeah, I think if you look at what our PM, Tan Sri Muhyiddin, has actually announced, many things that we are doing now is actually very much in line with what the governments are doing. Now, if you recall, last year, the government actually introduced 2 initiatives. They were saying that, they were asking the support of the insurance sectors to allow the delay of premium remittance, by our customers, and while we are protecting them. And thereafter, they also help us, get us to assist by pledging amount of money to what we call it the COVID testing fund. Now, what we see here is actually the government is actually trying to urge all Malaysians to get themselves insured. Not because insurance is important, but people cannot survive without insurance. Because all we want to see is actually we don't want people to suffer financial crisis when things happen. I think the ultimate things that people are concerned of COVID is not about the complication itself alone, but all of us are concerned because we loss of a source of income. So what we are doing here is actually we are here to replace the loss of income should anything happen to them. And in this COVID case, I think as Dr. Loh mentioned, we are potentially talking about a prolonged effect.
Right.
What if I lost 50% of my capacity of lung? I can't work anymore. So who's going to replace it? So all in all, yes, it does bring some adverse impact to us, but as a whole, it makes more Malaysians aware how important insurance is to their life.
I think the bigger picture here is really protection, right?
Yep.
Protection financially, protection for your health.
Correct.
I'd like to get to that, Dr. Loh, to talk about, for people wondering, like, vaccination. This is all we've been talking about for the past couple of months, right? Why is it so important to get vaccinated?
Now, the purpose of getting a vaccination is once the person receives the vaccine actually trains your body. It trains your immune system to recognize this particular virus, for example, in this case, the COVID-19 virus. And when you develop the immunity, and when you come across this virus, your body will immediately recognize it, and then it will produce the antibodies that actually fight against this COVID-19 virus, and therefore it can prevent you from getting sick, and also it can also prevent you from passing this virus to other people. And at the same time, without getting seriously ill, it can prevent you from getting serious complications or even death.
And it's just not about protecting yourself, protecting
Yes.
others as well, right?
I think, Cynthia, you actually used the right word, protection. Now, ever since the government announced, this change of status from MCO to CMCO, you will start to see economics are getting more robust. People are going out again. The shopping malls are full with people. Now, yes, people are very concerned of the impact of COVID, but the key here is people are also equally concerned. What if my source of incomes are affected? So, while we are talking about how COVID is bringing impact to us, I think we really do our part. Vaccination is the key to a long-term sustainability of the economy. If we don't get ourselves vaccinated, now how are we going to protect people surrounding us? Now, I suppose Dr. Loh has been vaccinated.
Yes.
People like us, Cynthia, will still have to wait. I don't know,
We're still waiting
many more
for
months.
it.
No, I wish I had been vaccinated yesterday.
Okay, let's talk about that, Dr. Loh. So you have been vaccinated,
Yes.
2 doses.
Yes.
How do you feel?
I completed my second dose about 2 weeks ago. I'm one of the very lucky ones. I didn't experience any form of side effects from both doses of vaccine. In fact, even after my first dose of vaccine, I went and do my regular exercise after my work. I went for a jog, and in fact, after the second dose, I didn't have any fever, I didn't have any pain or swelling, things like that. I even went home and I performed my regular exercise, and I still feel great the next day.
So I understand that for frontliners, it is the Pfizer vaccine, Pfizer-BioNTech
Yes,
vaccine, right?
yes.
How many types of vaccines are there in Malaysia that has been approved by the government?
Right.
And how is it different from one to the other?
Looking at the next slide, all right, so the Malaysian government has actually procured 5 vaccines from 5 different sources. If you look at the list, they are Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, AstraZeneca vaccine from UK, Sinovac vaccine from China, CanSino Bio vaccine from China, and also the Sputnik 5 from Gamaleya Institute in Russia. All these vaccines, although there is some difference in terms of the mechanism to induce your body to develop immunity against COVID virus, but all of them have a similar goal, which is actually to train your body to develop antibodies and to strengthen your immune system against the virus. All right? I don't think people should be too worried about the difference in terms of how the vaccine train your body to develop the immunity, because all of them have been proven to be very safe.
What are some of the potential side effects? I know you said you're the lucky one, but
Yeah.
what have you learned about the vaccine so far and potential side effects for somebody who's going to be vaccinated?
Now, as I said just now, these vaccines actually, they have undergone multiple phases of research and also meeting the worldwide accepted standards, especially the WHO, or we call it the World Health Organization. They need to make sure that before they mass produce this vaccine, they need to be safe and effective as well. There shouldn't be any major side effects resulting in loss of life, things like that for the recipients. So some of the side effects, most of them are actually mild and temporary, lasting less than 3 days usually. They are like, for example, the pain, swelling, and also a bit of redness at the site of injection. You may feel a bit tired or lethargic the next day or so. Some of them even complains they have minor headaches. They feel shivers or chills. They may experience joint pains or even fever. Some of them actually have nausea or just generally feeling unwell. But most of these symptoms, they can be managed. All right? You can, for example, you can take some Panadol. It can help to alleviate most of the pain and also the feeling of feverish. All right? Sometimes you can even apply a wet cloth, which is a coal, onto the site of injection to ease the pain and the swelling as well. So far, there are about 1 million doses has been given in Malaysia, especially to the frontliners. And the reported side effects is only about 3.5%, and that's really low actually. In fact, it's actually lower than what's being reported in the worldwide. And out of this 3.5%, 99.5% are actually mild,
okay.
right, and temporary. So only that 0.5% from that 3.5% will need some form of medical attention, right? And so far until today, there is no death that has been reported that is directly caused by this COVID-19 vaccine.
And I think as we head into the second phase of vaccination, I think this is where the crucial, this is where it's going to test us really, because this is the, under phase 2, this is where the high risk groups come in, people with heart diseases, parents, aged citizens, right? I'd like to get to Lauren. When people come to you asking your products and just understanding what are their concerns mostly, when they, about vaccines, and what do they tell you?
I think before we talk about the main concerns after vaccination, I think we need to talk about what's the concern currently. Yeah. Now, as always says, protection is something that people would like to take it lightly sometimes. Yeah. I'll just equate it to, rainy day. Now, if I were to ask you to buy an umbrella during a very sunny day, would you want to buy it? You say that no, don't waste my money. We're living in a very hot country. How often we will face rain? Yeah, that will likely to be hurt. But when it rains, people always say that, where can I get an umbrella? I need to get out of this building urgently. Now, what we've been hearing all this months, ever since April last year, the first thing comes to my mind is actually, if I'm being confirmed positive, COVID positive, can I still buy insurance? Now, that's what we have been telling people. Do not wait till that moment. Buy it while you still can. Yeah, insurance is working on this principle. We are here to ever ready to cover you if you're healthy. But if you're not healthy, we can't take the risk. Yeah, because this is about risk management. I think the second issue we need to talk about is actually people. Ever since April last year, of course, the industry, I think not just in the country but also globally, people saying that should we be taking risks of the people who has been confirmed positive? I think there has been a lot of positive development, of which from the very first day last year, people say that we are not going to cover anyone who has been diagnosed with COVID, but things start to change. Yeah, we're starting to accept people with COVID. Of course, people with complications, we might have to defer our decisions to cover them. But at this moment, things has improved a lot. Yeah, and that's why I say that the insurance cover is there for people who has been diagnosed. Yeah, of course, subject to terms and conditions. I think the second thing is actually, let's not be too worrisome about the side effect of COVID. Yeah, I think doctor would have the same scar. I would have the same scar. The same goes to you on our left arm. There is always a scar. Correct. Now, From baby when they're first born, in the first month, they have gone through some form of vaccinations, BCG, yeah, tetanus and poliomyelitis, many of it. Now, why people are concerned of this side effect now is because this COVID has been blown out of proportion. Yeah, people are of concern, but how come we never ask? Would there be a form of side effect when we send our kid to the clinic for injection? Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like to pick your point on that, because I think what the conversation should be right now is that while you have concerns, we understand that, but the benefits significantly outweigh the harm from
Yes.
taking a vaccine. Dr. Loh, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yes. Now, since this COVID-19 has been around for more than a year now, initially when this pandemic started, no one were being immunized. No one have any form of immunity against this virus. And therefore, it spreads so fast throughout the whole world, right? So many people actually died from these diseases. And even those who survive, they actually live with some long-term complications, right? So the only way that, the one of the best way to prevent this pandemic from keep going on is to develop a vaccine, an effective vaccine, right? To break the chain of infection. Of course, you can say that we can practice social distancing, hand washing, wearing masks, but how long are you going to keep doing this? Because it actually prevents you from going out and carrying out your daily activities or even carrying out your regular jobs. So there must be some point of time that we have to stop doing this, right? So the answer will be getting the COVID-19 vaccine. So that after getting the vaccine, most people are being immunized, then we don't have to be afraid of getting serious illness from this virus, right? And we can continue to carry on with our daily activities. Don't worry about the side effects. As I've mentioned earlier, it's extremely low, all right? The complication and the number of deaths caused by this pandemic is much, much higher than the side effects that you actually get from the vaccine itself.
If there are people out there, our audience, who are thinking about their parents who will probably be under phase 2 of the COVID-19 immunization plan, people who have heart disease, for instance, right? What do you tell them? How do you allay their concerns? Because we hear reports,
Yes,
we hear people reporting about some side effects, but you don't want to be that 0.001%, right?
Yeah. Okay, looking at the next slide. Now, currently, Malaysian government suggested that, or encourage those who are 18 and above to receive the vaccination. And they highly recommend that those with comorbidities, meaning that you have multiple medical illnesses, and you are high risk of suffering from severe COVID-19 disease, you should be getting the vaccine, all right? So who are this group of people who should be taking the vaccine? People with diabetes, all right? People who are overweight with a body mass index of more than 40, people with high blood pressure, all right? High cholesterol, heart disease, as we mentioned just now. Now, people with heart disease, during this early pandemic, the early phase of the pandemic, we have already noticed that this group of people with heart disease, high blood pressure, or even other form of lung diseases, they are very prone from dying, all right, from this COVID-19 infection, all right? Now, other people are having cancers, even the pregnant ladies with medical illnesses should be getting the vaccine as well, and people with chronic kidney disease as well. These are the group of people that are very high risk of getting further complications and even death. So they should be getting the vaccine.
How soon after getting the vaccine, how soon will the effect kick in? Is it immediately?
Well, this actually applies for all vaccines, not just the COVID-19 vaccine, okay? Once we have completed the vaccine, it takes generally about 2 weeks for our body to develop the effective immunity against viruses or even other form of illnesses. So it's not just COVID-19 vaccine, right? For your other vaccines like for rubella or even mumps or chickenpox, for TB, it takes that amount of time for everyone to develop an immunity against those diseases.
And do we know how long does the vaccine last in your body? How long will it protect you from COVID-19?
Right. Now, different vaccines have different time span in terms of effectiveness. However, because this COVID-19 is still relatively new compared to other forms of illnesses, we are still not sure how long the immunity will last after the vaccination. But as far as we know until today, from the data that has been collected, it shows that the immunity is still there even after 6 to 8 months of vaccination. But as time passes, we are still not sure whether after a year or even so, whether we need to get a third dose or even a different form of vaccine for COVID-19.
All right. I'd like to go back to Lawrence just a bit to talk about phase 2. This is where we have all people with serious diseases, and what is your advice to them? I mean, as somebody who's offering this kind of protection, insurance, when they want to feel good going into getting vaccinated. What can you suggest, and what kind of protection offer?
I think let's position it this way. First of all, I would think that all Malaysians who are fit, who qualify, should get themselves vaccinated. I think the key issue is not about how long the vaccine could last. It's about how are we going to be fairer to people who cannot be vaccinated. Now, let's quote, we are likely to be in so-called the third phase to be vaccinated. Who knows? It's September, August this year. But there is always a group of people who can be vaccinated. These are the people with comorbidity, with multiple illnesses. They could also be people with severe immune system problem. They can't get themselves vaccinated. Now, if we don't get ourselves vaccinated, let's not talk about just buying insurance. Are we able to get out freely to mix with these people? We can't lock these people at home forever. We need to be fair to them, correct? And secondly is actually, while we were talking about getting ourselves protected from the perspective of insurance, I think number one is actually getting ourselves from getting sick first. Now, as we all talked about earlier, the COVID is still relatively new to human beings. We would not know what would be the major impact to us in the long run. Now, ultimately, if I were to go back to my forte of business, now get yourself insured. I think the most important, there are two elements we need to look at. Now, we always talk about, as a Malaysian, we always ask this, do you have a medical card? Correct? That's always the first question that comes to our mind when we're buying insurance. But let's bear in mind, medical card is only here to protect you, to help you to pay off your medical bill. But we have always forgotten one element, our cost of living. Our ability to earn income. Now, when I'm no longer able to earn income, I need someone to help me. That's why we see a lot of people going on Facebook, going on social media, or even the traditional printing media. Now, to ask for donation, financial assistance. But why do we need to endure that pain? Now, while we can get ourselves insured, there's this element called the criticalness. Now, we do not know what will be the consequence, but if we can plan ahead, while you buy your criticalness, although someone is able to help us to fork out the medical bill, but people will not be able to help you for long term. So if you can really think about it, criticalness is here to help you. It could be buying 100,000. Some people even buy up to multi-millions. Now, all of us come with different needs in life, all right? We have our home installments to pay off, our car installments, our children future education fund. Now, this is where it comes about. So here, doctors always say, the doctors are working hand in hand with insurance sectors. While the doctors are helping people to recover, they're doing the job of curing. We are here to provide the financial assistance. Now, to people who cannot afford financially, we're here to give a sum of money so they can be treated. At the same time, the doctor will discharge you from hospital once you recover. Here, again, we play our role, just in case, although you have recovered from the illness, but what if you can't work anymore? We provide another form of financial assistance.
And I think that we've also mentioned about the long-ranging effect of not just COVID-19, I mean in general, just to be prepared and to plan ahead. Now we have a question coming through. It's from Rajaram Ramalingam. Again, I would like to get our audience to know that we are taking questions. We love to hear from you, so please send them in. You can do it on IJN's Facebook Live, which is happening right now. Okay, question for Rajaram. I have high blood pressure and am on Plavix. I assume that this is a type of drug.
Yes.
Can I take the vaccine?
All right, this is actually a very good question addressing multiple issues here. All right, I'll try to answer every single one. Mr. Rajaram, having high blood pressure means that you are in one of the high-risk groups of getting severe COVID-19 illness if you are being infected. Now, Plavix is actually is a medicine. In general, it's called antiplatelet. Basically, it's to prevent your platelet from causing blood clots. Right? A lot of patients are taking this to prevent heart attacks or even preventing strokes. Right? So it's a mild form of blood thinner. There are other forms of blood thinner which are stronger or causing even higher effects of blood thinning. If you are taking Plavix and you have high blood pressure, you can still go for the vaccination. Just that after the vaccination, after the injection, you just need to press harder and longer so that you do not develop any bleeding from the site of the injection. Right? So yes, my answer is you can take the vaccine.
On that second question from Mr. Rajaram, so I think this is related to what you mentioned about blood clots, because Mr. Rajaram also asked about AstraZeneca. We have heard reports about a handful of people who might have complications due to the vaccine from AstraZeneca. So his question is, can I take it if I have high blood pressure and am on kind of medication to help regulate the platelet, right?
Now, the AstraZeneca vaccine for COVID-19 has been widely debated recently, mainly because of the concern about unusual and a very rare blood clots events, mainly in the younger population and also females. But however, after going through the risk and the incidence of this issue, the European Medicine Agency actually has come up with a conclusion saying that the risk is still very low and they should continue with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Because if you don't take the vaccine, your risk of getting the infection resulting in serious complications is actually still much higher than getting the blood clots when you are after taking the vaccine itself. Right? Can we go back to the
question earlier by Mr. Rajaram?
Yeah. So, and the other issue is, the second issue is that we don't get to choose which vaccine we get from the government. All right? So the vaccine that you get is the best vaccine you can get. Right? So don't worry too much about it. The incidence is still very low. In fact, our government has not finalized the age group or which group of people should be getting this vaccine or shouldn't be, right? So I can't comment much on whether you will be getting this AstraZeneca. Perhaps the government might give a different form of COVID vaccine to you. But if you get it, I still think, if you still get the AstraZeneca vaccine, I still think that you should take it.
Okay, I think the point here is that, again, the benefits significantly outweigh the risk from getting COVID-19. Now, if you can go on to the next question, I think it's related to the first one. This is from Jason Su. He's asking if our healthcare has a remedy ready in the event someone has blood clot from taking the vaccine, what drugs and treatment are available, and also, Doctor, your advice on what can be done to reduce the side effects if it happens.
Right. Now, again, this is a very good question, and we can be divided into multiple parts of it. Now, currently, yes, there are treatment for these blood clot events, but the most important thing is how early you detected this problem. So if you had these blood clot events and you go to see your doctor as early as possible, then yes, there is a possibility that you can recover after receiving the treatment. But there are some people who didn't know they had a blood clot. They presented late to the hospital or to the doctors, and that's why some of them actually pass away because of these serious blood clot events. But nevertheless, again, I must stress that this event is extremely low, right? Also, what advice we can be done to research? Well, as I've said, you can't really, if it's going to happen, there's nothing really much you can do except you have to go to seek medical treatment as early as possible. And as a general advice, we usually advise that after the vaccination, just get yourself hydrated, well hydrated, right? Get yourself moving around, because these are just the general risks of getting blood clots, especially in the legs. When you're sitting down too long, you're not moving, you're very dehydrated, or you have underlying illnesses prior to the vaccine that predisposes you to get these blood clot events. So you have to discuss with your doctor earlier whether you're suitable to receive this vaccine or not.
All right. I'll get to Lauren to understand. We're talking about side effects here, right? Does insurance company cover side effects from COVID-19?
You know, I think the question here is, it's a very valid question. It has been the major question people are asking about. I think the key issue here is, before you ask whether I'm being covered, I think I will advise everyone to go back to their respective home, take out your policy documents, yeah? So it all spells out the terms and conditions and what the type of benefits we are covering. But all in all, in the context of Allianz Malaysia, yeah, we would cover the side effect in the event a patient has been hospitalized, yeah? The keyword is this patient must be hospitalized. Now say for example, if let's say I've just gotten the jab yesterday and I feel numbness here for a couple of hours, you know, do we call it side effect which requires hospitalization? No. That is a normal form of so-called mild side effect we would potentially face. And while we're talking about side effects, actually the major ones which we need immediate medical treatment. That's a key. But all in all, while we talk about side effects, I really need the public to understand this. Yeah, I think the government is doing their very best to educate everyone. In fact, if you look at all the publicity by the government, when someone, I think doctor can actually verify this. Although doctors are medical practitioners, when doctors has this thing performed, so there was some expert will tell them, okay, fine, before we perform the job on you, we'll do some form of verification again, okay, to let you know whether you're fit to be injected. Once the jab has been performed, okay, you have to stay put for another 15-20 minutes. So make sure you're in good shape before they release you to go back home. Yeah, and of course, we have also been told that in case you develop some form of side effect, be it mild or severe, you're supposed to report it via your MySejahtera app. And if it's severe enough, please rush yourself to the nearest hospital. Yeah, because just like the issue we talk about blood clot. Yeah, who knows? You know, you have a blood clot at your leg, you feel the numbness. You know, that's where you need to act. Yeah, so blood clot is to me is not something new. We have been hearing it every day. Yeah. So why all of a sudden it becomes something so great?
Now, doctor, is there any group of people who are not advised to take the vaccine?
Oh yes. Can we go back to the slides, please? Okay, so there are few reasons why you should not be getting the vaccine. In fact, there are not many. The main one is actually if you have any severe allergies, right? After receiving the first dose of vaccine, if you have a severe allergy, then you are not advisable to take the second dose. Or even before the first dose of vaccine, you already know that you have some form of severe allergy that requires hospitalization or special form of medical treatment. Therefore, you are not advisable to receive the vaccine. Right? There are also other groups of people whereby you are supposed to consult your doctor first because you may not be eligible for the vaccine. For example, if you have bleeding disorders or even other form of blood disorders that require you to take some form of strong blood thinners, right? Doesn't mean you're on blood thinner, you shouldn't be taking the vaccine, right? It depends on what form of blood thinner you're taking. And if you have a very weak immune system for various reasons, for example, you're a cancer patient, you're undergoing chemotherapy that actually suppresses your immune system, and also you have other form of what we call autoimmune disease. That means there's something wrong with your own immune system that actually cause illnesses to you. And of course, there are other patients who are receiving long-term steroids or even medication that suppress your immune system. You really need to discuss with your doctors first. Sometimes you may still be able to go for the vaccine after you have completed those medication that you're on. Right. Now, there's also some group of people who may need to delay their vaccination or their injection for this COVID-19 vaccine. For example, if you have any fever or flu infection, things like that, you need to wait for at least 2 weeks after the recovery. Then you can go for the infection. Or if you have received any other vaccine for other illnesses, you also have to wait for about 2 weeks after receiving the vaccine. There are some patients who recently infected by the COVID-19. I have a lot of patients who actually come to me and ask, "Oh, doctor, I had COVID-19 a few months back, right? Should I be getting the vaccine now?" Now, our government actually has advised that if you had COVID-19 infection before and you have recovered, usually you have some form of immunity, right, against COVID-19, and it usually lasts about 6 months. So that's why they advise that you can get the vaccine later, perhaps 3 to 6 months after you have recovered from COVID-19. Right? There are other groups of patients that are also advisable. For example, mothers who are breastfeeding, they should go for the vaccine.
They should?
Right? Yeah, they should.
Okay.
Right? For HIV patients, yes, they can still go for the vaccine as well. HIV patients, they have depressed immune system, right? So if the HIV status is well controlled, they're on some form of medication, and the immunity has improved to a certain level, then the doctor will allow these patients to go for the vaccination as well. Yeah. And for those people who have mild allergies, not severe allergies, just mild allergies, sometimes you get a bit of rashes, a bit of mild swelling, but it doesn't cause you to have difficulty breathing or chest pain or even fainting episodes, you still can go for the vaccination
totally fine.
as well. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, today there was a report actually it was a Facebook update by our Health Director General, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah. Now, he said that this is regarding to side effects. Reinfection.
Yes.
No, sorry, not reinfection. This is
infection after the vaccine.
but yeah, infection after vaccine. So, out of all the frontliners vaccinated, 40 developed or contracted COVID-19 after receiving the second dose. Tell us about this. I mean, why doesn't it offer 100% protection? Is it something that the public shouldn't expect? And how would it impact us moving forward with our lifestyle, wearing masks, social distancing?
Right. Now, in the early trials of this vaccine, before they are being mass produced and distributed to everyone, we already know that the effectiveness of this vaccine is not 100%. All right? This goes for other vaccines as well, for other form of illnesses, right? And some people, they're something what we call a non-responder or poor responder. Sometimes they got the vaccine, but they never developed the immunity, all right? Or some even, the immunity never lasts long enough to protect them from the infection. However, there's a second point that most people missed during the earlier trials, which is the vaccine actually achieved almost 100%, nearly 100% in preventing serious COVID illness and preventing death. Now that is very important, right? Why I say that is because even though if you get infected by COVID, but you didn't develop any serious infection, you actually recover. So it's just like any other common flu or illnesses. Yes, you may be unwell for a week or two, but eventually you recover and you go back to your normal life activities. So that is very important, right? So do not be too discouraged that, after I get my vaccine, I still can get infected. Then therefore, why should I get the vaccine, right? But you must understand, the vaccine doesn't just prevent you from the infection, but it also prevents you from dying if you get the infection.
Okay, and I think also,
maybe just to add on, while Tan Sri Hisham actually raised the issue, I suppose many Malaysians will actually turn panicky, when they saw this. But I also read over news 2 days ago, there was a similar incident in Singapore, Of course, Singapore has actually vaccinated many of their citizens and as well as those who are working there. Now, this particular case, which happens in a dormitory, one of this guy who has been vaccinated eventually confirmed positive. But the best thing is actually, it does not spread to the balance of 1,500 people who are staying in the same dormitory. I think that's what we are trying to achieve,
I think that's also what we're trying to understand more about the virus. It's been a year plus, but it's still relatively new in terms of understanding the virus and the vaccines. Now, I'd like to go back to our questions. I know a lot of questions are coming through. We'd like to try to get to that as much as we can. So a question from Elaine Yi. She's asking that, are people with heart palpitation condition suitable to take the vaccine, doctor?
Yes, heart palpitation is actually a very general term. There are many causes of heart palpitation. But as far as I know, all forms of heart disease, they are not contraindicated for vaccination unless you are a heart donation recipient. That means you're a recipient of a heart from another person, right? Because after the heart surgery, you need to be on certain medications that actually suppress your immune system from rejecting the new heart, right? So once you have completed that course of treatment, usually about 3 months after, you can take the vaccine as well. Yeah. Okay. So for heart palpitation alone is not a contraindication to get the vaccine.
We also have been hearing a lot about herd immunity. That is our target, to get as many people vaccinated so that we can stem the infection, and also really to allow our healthcare system to cope with any kind of eventualities, And I think the quality of healthcare service and trying to address 1,000 ICU patients and trying to address like 10, the quality of care is very different, and that's what we're trying to do with herd immunity as well. So, Doctor, can you talk about how does it work? This herd immunity. What do we ultimately aim to achieve by getting people vaccinated? The bigger picture here.
Now, this term, can we go to the slides, please? This term of herd immunity is not something new. It has been around. In fact, it's the goal for for all the vaccines. More than 2 decades ago, the idea of giving this vaccine is to try to immunize as many people as possible, right? So that those who are not eligible or those who didn't get the vaccine, they are being protected as well. How are they being protected? If you look at the diagram, all right, the top one, if no one is being immunized, the orange person with the infection will then spread the infection to a lot of people in a very quick manner, right? Because no one is being immunized against this disease, right? But if you look at the diagram lower, if the people in blue are being immunized, all right, they can stop the infection from spreading to them, or even prevent the infection from spreading to those who are not being immunized as well. So those who are being immunized, they break the chain of infection. Yeah. So that's the idea of herd immunity, right? The herd immunity is trying to immunize as many people as possible to break the chain of infection and to get it to end this pandemic. Yeah.
There are still a lot of hesitation among people to even register. Lawrence, how do we address those things?
No,
how can we persuade people that you need to take the vaccine, not just for yourself, but also others?
No, I would like to use this analogy. Many of us would have developed, natural immunity against hepatitis B. Now, assuming I'm a father and I have 3 kids at home, yeah? Now, if I know that I'm a Hep B carrier, would I want to get my child to be protected medically? Yes, we would want, yeah? I think what people are concerned is actually, as I mentioned, this topic has been blown out of proportion. Yeah. Now the impact is not there. Now, of course, yes, for sure, we have heard some bad incidences happening globally. Now we need to look at the fact: no governments in the world is ever ready to get their citizens into a very severe health issue. Now, what we are seeing here is actually, let's look at this perspective. Yes, we are here to protect ourselves. Secondly, we are here to protect our family. If we are being selfish, ask them not to be protected, by having a vaccine to be injected, that is as good as putting them at risk. That's one thing. Secondly, how can we afford to stop our children from going to school? Are we going to here to tell them, fine, forget about your educations, that's all about your future? Are we here to tell people, don't go to work? Yeah, we need source of income. Now, this is a very important point to think of. Yeah, while we talk about, what's the potential side effect, as Dr. Loh mentioned earlier, the risk of getting the severe side effect is extremely low. And if we look at all the incidences that we have seen throughout the world, people are having this major side effect are the people with comorbidity. Now, I think the government is actually doing a very good job. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, many forms of publicity has been given to people. Okay, who are the people who are supposed to go for vaccination? Who are the people who should not be vaccinated? Just that, although you have been informed that you are qualified to be vaccinated, upon arriving at the vaccination center, you'll be qualified again. Yeah, it's not that you go in, for sure you get a jab. They will qualify you again if you're not fit to say, sir, sorry, we can't vaccinate you. You need to go home. Yeah. We are doing our best. I mean, the entire health system is trying to protect fellow Malaysians. Now, seriously, my advice is actually, if you are the one who has been informed that you need to get vaccinated, please get yourself presented there. Okay? Because if you don't, you're wasting a chance. Okay? Not just for yourself, but you are taking away a chance for someone else who's supposed to be vaccinated. As mentioned earlier, if I were given the chance, I would like to have myself vaccinated yesterday, because every now and then I need to go out, correct? I'm exposing myself to the risk. And ultimately, I'm spreading the risk to my loved ones.
I think we have to think about the collective objective here. It's just not for yourself. The faster we all get vaccinated, the faster the economy recovers, the faster people can go back to school and get on with their lives. Well, I'd like to get another question from Vivian that just came through. She says, good afternoon to you, Vivian. Are those with asthma considered high-risk group and suitable to get vaccinated? Doctor.
Okay. Now, asthma is a form of lung disease, right? In fact, it's not just asthma. Even if you have other form of chronic lung diseases, right? For example, like if you are lung cancer survivor, you have lung diseases due to long term of smoking, or even lung diseases due to other job hazards, right? You are considered a high-risk group of getting severe COVID-19 infections, right? Now, it's not just about asthma alone. Most people with asthma, they also have other form of allergies. For example, they're allergic to certain food, to certain medications, right? So if these people with asthma and they have severe allergies, right, history of severe allergies to other food or medication, then they may not be able to get the vaccine. They may not be suitable to get the vaccine. But then again, your family doctor or your personal doctor knows best on how bad is your asthma. It's best that you discuss with your doctor, all right, and ask your doctor whether you have other form of severe allergies. If you do, then you may not be able to take the vaccine. But if you don't, with just asthma alone, you should be getting the vaccine. Yeah.
All right, can we also go to the next question? Yes, great. Okay, so from Michael Chia, hi doc, senior citizens in the high-risk group, diabetes, hypertension, would they be assessed first before they are vaccinated? Is it safe to be given to all? I think the question here is that, you know, when you register MySejahtera, will I be assessed again by KKM, or do I have to go to a private physician to do so?
So this is a good question again. Yes, if you go to the MySejahtera, or even not just MySejahtera, if you go through the hotline, or you go to some of the government centers been set up to do the registration for the vaccination, they do have a simple questionnaires that you have to answer to assess whether you are a high-risk group or whether you are high risk of getting complication from or side effects from the vaccine. So they will screen through everyone, right? They will not just ask you once during the registration. Even on the day when you presented yourself to the center to get vaccinated, they will ask you a more detailed, a longer questionnaires to decide whether you still can go for the vaccination or not. Yeah.
So how does it, tell us about from your experience as a frontliner. Let's say if you do have hypertension, right?
Yes.
What kind of process do you have to go through? You said, okay, you filled the form, but is there a more specific assessment that will take place?
Right. As I mentioned, the high blood pressure itself is not a contraindication to get the vaccine, right? It's more of assessing whether you have other problems, like for example, history of severe allergy, or you're taking some certain medications that do not allow you to take the vaccine now. For example, like if you are on chemotherapy, you're on long-term steroids, you're on other medication that suppress your immune system, then they will tell you that, nope, now it's not suitable for you. You probably have to wait a little while longer till you completed this treatment, or your doctor say you're safe to be off from this medication, then you can go for the vaccination.
Doctor, maybe we can actually add on a little bit.
Yeah.
I think from our experience, you see, when fellow Malaysians, when they're applying for insurance protection, there's a likelihood that a normal citizen do not remember what kind of medications they are on. So the key words here is actually, just in case, you know that you are medically not fit, but of course not to the extent cannot be vaccinated, be truthful. If you are not sure what kind of medications you are on, please consult your doctor so that you can declare truthfully. Because you see, no one would like to harm you, but sometimes it's out of our naiveness, we cause trouble to ourselves.
Okay. Now, I also get to understanding a bit more about the vaccine. So we have quite a few that have been approved by the government. Some are one doses, some are two. Some are one dose, some are two doses. If you can tell us the difference, and does it impact in terms of the efficacy of the vaccine, or how we build the antibody?
Right. Getting 2 doses of vaccine is not something new. In fact, for most other diseases, for example, like mumps, measles, rubella, for hepatitis A, hepatitis B, we need to get a booster dose. The subsequent dose called booster dose. Meaning that after the first dose, yes, you develop the immunity, but over time, the immunity wanes. And you need to take a second dose to boost it up again, to make it stronger again against the virus or the pathogen. Why is 1 dose or 2 doses? This is mainly because from what they gathered during the trials, the early trials, when they inject the vaccine on the group of people, right, which they tested on, they look at their response towards first dose, and then over time and see whether the immunity stays or not, or whether they become weaker, all right? And that is how they decide whether, for the different vaccines, whether they should be getting 1 dose or 2 doses. Yeah.
What about in terms of efficacy? Like
now, most people, in fact, not just the vaccine alone, most people, when they recovered from the COVID-19 infection, not 100% of them will actually develop the immunity, right? Probably about 80%. And in fact, the older you are, the likelihood that you develop the immunity is even lower, as low as probably around 50% or 40+%. All right. So that's why earlier on we did advise those who actually survived or recovered from the COVID-19, you should still go and get the vaccination, right? In terms of effectiveness or the efficacy of the vaccine, there are many factors involved. Sometimes you shouldn't just look at the numbers alone. Yes, I'm pretty sure that some of you will say that this particular vaccine has a higher efficacy and this particular vaccine has a lower efficacy. Now, you cannot really compare apple to orange. Why I say this is because these vaccines, when they conduct the trials, the early trials, they were not conducted in the same setting, the same environment, or the same criteria. Right? The people they recruit are different. When they conduct the study, is also different. For example, vaccine A, the trial was conducted when the COVID-19 incidence is still very low. Therefore, the efficacy will give. The results will show that as though the efficacy is very high because the incidence is low. But if vaccine B, the trial is being conducted when the incidence of COVID is at its peak, more people are getting the infection. Of course, then naturally you find that the efficacy of the vaccine will appear as though it's lower, right? But most important thing is that from all these trials, although the efficacy is different from one another, but one thing for sure, they all show the similar finding is that the prevention of serious COVID-19 illness and preventing death is almost 100%.
I think one of the conversations that even my friends and I know family have been having is that I want to wait for that certain vaccine. Yeah. I want to choose that particular vaccine. How do we address that? Because this is going to impact our desire to get people vaccinated as soon as possible because they want to be choosy. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we don't get to choose which vaccine we want to get, right? Till today, right? There are multiple factors, right? One is because the supply of the vaccine. If you only choose one vaccine from one supplier, then you may not be able to purchase enough of this particular vaccine to be given to all the people in Malaysia. Right? That's why our government had to get this vaccine from multiple suppliers in order to meet the demand, in order to achieve the herd immunity that we are trying to achieve. We are trying to get about 80% of the population being vaccinated. So if you only get the vaccine from one particular supplier, I'm afraid we may not be able to achieve the herd immunity that we wanted to.
We have a couple of minutes left, and just some final thoughts on both of our panel here. I'd like to get to Lauren first. And knowing that there is still a lot of concern among the people, and now moving into second phase, this is when the real test starts. Do I want to get vaccinated? I'm a bit afraid. Do I want to get my parents into that risk of possibly getting a blood clots? What would you tell them? I mean, from your perspective.
I would like to quote an analogy quoted by Dr. Loh earlier before we started sessions. It's the analogy of buying a car. Yeah, you can become very choosy when you want to pick the car, what car you want, to make sure there's no defect. But sometimes you just will not know, correct? But if out of the 100 cars if you pick, the one you pick comes with the defect, and the rest of 99 does not. Yeah. Now, come back to the question: what kind of vaccines can I choose? I want this, I don't want that. Now, as I always say, all vaccines work by itself, correct? Now, all has been developed, by reputable companies, by reputable experts. Now, all these countries has actually screened through everything before they roll out to market. Okay. Now, I think multi-millions people has been vaccinated throughout the world. Now, do we really see major impact out of this? We don't. Now, if I were to bring it back to my business, we always ask this to our customers. You can always tell me you want to pick the best product. But ended up, people who always going on the spree to pick the best product, they never get themselves covered. Why? Because we delay. Yeah, we make an attempt to procrastinate. In this case, my answer would be, don't wait. Yeah, and of course, a very important message to everyone. We are living in the digital era. We are relying on messages on Twitter, Facebook, I don't know, Instagram, wherever you can name it. But ultimately, don't look at all these messages unless they come from official sources, from the governments, from WHO or whoever. You know why I always say this? People who are posting online, they are begging for your likes, your, I don't know, whatever things you call it, the positive things you call it online. But are they the experts? They are not. Okay. Now, the government is actually urging you to get it done because they are doing it for the sake of the community, not for themselves. Okay. And of course, going back to the issue here is about vaccination. Now, vaccination is not new to us. Okay. It has been around for hundreds of years at least. Okay. We talk about Dr. Rubella's. We talk about poliomyelitis, many more. But yet we have never questioned, can I pick that drug? Can I pick this? No. Here, just again, things has been blown out of proportion. The key is herd immunity, or call it herd immunity, or call it community immunity. So let's protect ourselves first. We need to go back to our normal life. Okay? No, doctor has mentioned earlier, he has not been seeing his parents for months. Yeah, ever since this thing broke out. Now we need to go back to life. Economy needs to pick up again, and our kids need to resume their normal life. So let's not be selfish. Let's move on.
Using the same analogy that you brought up about cars, just want to address that finally. I mean, it's a final point here. If there's a defect, if there are side effects, we know how to address it.
Yes.
I think that's a very important point to say as well.
There are a lot of safety mechanisms and multiple levels of regulations, and also to make sure that the final product that comes into the market that's being offered to the mass should be safe, right? So it's not just decided by one agency or one governing body, right? For example, as mentioned earlier, WHO have to work with multinational bodies, agencies, and experts, right? Before they decide whether this particular vaccine is actually safe to be given out, right? And do not be too hesitant to register as soon as possible. Okay, get yourself registered first, right? Doesn't mean that you have registered, then for sure you are being forced to take the vaccine, right? Okay, even if on that day, if you don't take the vaccine, we are not going to take any legal actions, as far as I know, right, against you, right? Get yourself registered first, all right? If you have any doubts, consult your doctors, right? There are websites, there are information that are being easily accessible by the governments, all right, given by the governments. You can visit them and go through them. I'm sure they can answer most of your questions. And if you are still in doubt, just get yourself presented on that day of vaccination. Again, you will be assessed again. You will be reassessed again by the healthcare experts to see whether you are suitable for the vaccine or not. So it's not just like a one-stop station whereby you register and then you get vaccinated. No. So you get registered, then later on, you'll be reassessed again, and then after the vaccination, they will continue to monitor.
Okay.
Right? They continue to monitor. That's why our government have this My Sejahtera app for anyone who has or experienced any side effects. They can just report it on using the app. Right? So our government is still continuing to monitor the side effects, and whether these side effects are serious enough or whether the incidences are too high for us to continue with this particular current vaccine. If there is, then they will consider a second option.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for wrapping that up nicely. I think the big takeaway here is, of course, get registered, get vaccinated. You don't just think of yourself, but also think about people around you and the community. And the sooner we can get to herd immunity, the sooner we can get back to normality. Right, thank you so much, Dr. Loh and Lauren, for sharing your thoughts and answering some very pertinent questions from our audience. And you have been watching a special talk to talk about, are we ready for COVID-19 vaccines? I feel like I'm ready after this session, and I hope you are too. Once again, my name is Cynthia Ng, and thanks to our guests again. Thank you for IJN for hosting us. We'll see you next time.